Indie horror has taken off in the recent years. I'm sure you can all recount some staples in the genre. Five Nights at Freddy's, Bendy and the Ink Machine, and even Hello Neighbor in its own way. You can't deny that the community has been eating good for a while. As such, with popularity, there is a downside to it. Controversy being the biggest, and the indie horror genre isn't lacking in it. A lot of them stem from random people inside the community. But what about the developers themselves? Ones with commendable reputations, figures in the community that are heavily respected. Well, today, that's the area I'm going to explore. Adam Flatau is a prominent figure in the indie horror game community. He's the creator of incredible hits such as Welcome to the Game series, Scrutinized, and Rides with Strangers. But we're here to talk about one game, Welcome to the Game 2 in particular. Welcome to the Game is about you exploring the horrors of the deep web. You, the player, are trying to gain access to a red room, a live stream that features the most vile and heinous actions. The second game is a little similar but takes a different turn. You explore the dark web to solve a mystery of a missing girl who's being hunted by people in masks. The game was received pretty well, although it has a few flaws, the main one being that it's incredibly difficult. There's a streamer by the name of Castoro who streams his runs of the game. At one point during one of his streams, he explained how he met Adam the developer in person and didn't have the greatest impression from him.
I've seen different people say different things about Adam. I've seen different people say Adam is like a legitimate psychopath and he's got like crazy big issues and shit. And then other people say he's really nice. He always seemed like a big asshole, kind of like an asshole to me. I don't know, because I don't know him personally. I have huge respect for his games, but he did seem kind of like an asshole. I don't know. It's hard to say, right? You said Adam's a weird guy. Maybe he's weird. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's just into making weird games. Good games, but weird games. I don't judge people till I talk with them. Okay, that's what I was gonna say at the end. And all my exchanges with Adam has been really very kind. So I don't really think anything. I have no opinion.
Interestingly, it turns out that Adam was actually watching the stream as this happened, and he didn't seem to take it too kindly. And over the next 2 hours, Adam essentially sabotaged his stream. Things would actively be implemented into his game to ruin his run, such as spawning certain antagonists and bugging minigames.
It's bugged. It's actually bugged. It's actually bugged! What the fuck was that? I couldn't click on that square.
At first, Kistori thought Adam implemented an autoscript into his account, ruining his copy of the game. But it turns out by Adam's own admission that he was actively ruining the runs himself. This caused Adam to receive backlash online. There was speculation that he did the same thing to Markiplier when he insulted him. Spaceman Scott has a good video exploring that, but basically that didn't seem to be the case, since when Markiplier played it, he wasn't even able to dev troll, and the Castor thing happened 2 years after Markiplier's playthrough. After this, there doesn't seem to be any controversy involving Adam, so it's safe to assume he learned to not lash out at people online. Kane Carter is a popular indie dev in the FNAF community. He's the creator of Pop Goes, a game that initially exploded in 2016. He's also been an active member of the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, a collaboration project started by Scott to expand on the ever-growing community of Five Nights at Freddy's. In 2023, Markiplier played an obscure FNAF fan game called Locked in Sewer. A little while after, Kane went on Twitter explaining that he was surprised that Markiplier's team notified him of a 150 follower game and not FNAF Plus. Markiplier then responded, which caused Kane to receive a massive wave of backlash. He tried to explain that he wasn't jealous but rather surprised, but he got so much hate that he had to private his account. Now, I'm unsure of what his true intentions were. On one hand, after Mark responded, he tried to get him to look into FNAF Plus, but on the other hand, he probably was surprised and had just made a poorly worded tweet. Either way, the harassment he received was unnecessary. He seems to be doing fine now, considering that his account is now public, and he seems to have some other projects in the works. Any of of you watching this don't need an introduction to Scott Cawthon. He's probably the biggest indie horror developer of all time. He created a franchise that has a massive community that is still active today. There are fan games, media, and other installments all inspired by his work. It's even bled into other categories of horror. The impact he's made is unforgettable, but where is Scott? Well, he's not so much into the community as he once was. In 2021, Scott's donations to Republican candidates were spread across social media. This caused the internet to divide into those of support and those against him. Scott eventually responded, stating that he was only donating to candidates he believed would run the country best and not for any other reason. He also announced that he would be retiring. He explained that he could focus more on his family and another thing he was passionate about, children's games. Scott has since played a minimal role in the franchise's new releases. Whether you still choose to support Scott or not is up to you, but one thing we can all agree on is that Five Nights at Freddy's has immensely impacted the indie horror scene.
It is unsettling, Steve and Jeanette, and it's called, innocently enough, the Huggy Wuggy game. And while it
Mob Entertainment, previously Mob Games, is a former indie studio. They've made quite a few things in recent years, but their most notorious product is the Poppy Playtime series. Although the first one wasn't received that well, the later installments had good praise. But before the release of the second game, Mob Entertainment decided to undergo an NFT project, where for $15 you can buy a Poppy Playtime poster that was also a puzzle piece, and once you collect all 6, you would get an additional 7th that would complete the puzzle. The fans didn't like this. The reputation of NFTs aren't that great, and on top of that, the community felt that the teasers to the second game was being paywalled. Mob Entertainment eventually released a statement expressing their regret for the project and that they were canceling it. This just seemed like an attempt at an easy cash grab from the company, so the criticism they received was justified. They since seem to have been focusing on new releases of their game.
You can run away, but the smell of your pancreas will always draw me to you.
The Euphoric brothers popped into the scene more recently, with the first release of their hit game, Garten of Banban, releasing in 2023. Well, the Garten of Banban series hasn't been received well, the first game in particular receiving criticism for its terrible graphics, bad voice acting, and 10-minute runtime. Garten of Banban 2 got even worse, with the game now having a price tag and not being so different from the first, one of those similarities being its very low playtime. Content creators were able to beat the game in under an hour, which allowed them to refund the game within Steam's 2-hour time slot. This would annoy the devs, causing them to complain on Twitter. This didn't go well for them since it caused people to call them out for making a bad game, and instead of listening to criticism by the third installment, they constructed the game to where the puzzles took longer to complete. This got them even more backlash. They don't seem to be in good standings with the community as of now, or many just see them as entitled. They released more games throughout the year and seem to have another one coming up. Indie horror devs are for the most part good. A lot of them are humble and appreciative of the fan base they've built, and although there are some bad apples in this space, they are good cautionary tales for what could happen if you let fame and money get to your head.